Hey, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for Monday, June 5th, 2023. Just a quick recap on what was on the podcast last week. We had a brand new interview with Brittany Haas and Natalie Haas about their new duo record, which is great. Fantastic record, really fascinating conversation. Go and check that out if you haven't heard it. That was very cool. This week is Tune Week, so we've got some new tunes coming up later in the week, so keep your ears peeled for those. And I'm also recording another interview this week that will be out next week, so working on that. It's all ticking over nicely. I've only really got a couple of things for you in this week's briefing. There's not a load of news, but I'm going to kick it off with the first bit, which is Church Street news. And the bit of Church Street news this week saw the announcement last week that Gabe Witcher is leaving Punch Brothers after 18 years as their fiddle player. Punch Brothers are, I think, probably my favourite band. I've seen them every time they've been over to the UK, bar one when I was away, going back to 2008 when I first saw them in London. And look, I just wanted to take this moment to first off say thank you to Gabe for just some wonderful music. Great fiddle playing, not just with Punch Brothers and all sorts of other places, and long will and may that continue. But his playing with Punch Brothers has been just extraordinary. And him going will change the band, not only because of the fiddle, but because of the vocal mix and what he brings with that. And I just wanted to mark it and say thanks to Gabe for some just fabulous music. I think maybe the fiddle break in Missy on the Anti-Fogmatic record is my favourite fiddle break on anything of all time. Go and listen to it. Go listen to that track. It is astonishing. I remember hearing one of the guys from Counting Crows saying years ago that the point of a guitar solo is to take the energy that's been created by the band and the singer and lift it and carry it and leave it in a better place for the song to continue afterwards. And that's exactly what this break does. It's not just a bunch of licks. It's not just a bunch of, look, I can do this stuff. It's an emotional bridge between two sections of a sung song. And it is just soulful and glorious fiddle playing. So yeah, go listen to that. And the second part of the announcement was that Brittany Haas is replacing Gabe. The final concerts with the band as they are will be at Telluride this year. And then Brittany Haas, who is obviously also in Hawktail with Paul Coet, will be replacing Gabe, and that'll be a different sound. She's got a different style, a different sort of feel, and I'm fascinated to see not only how that works with the old material, but what happens with new material, where that goes. So just exciting all round. And when I released my interview with Brittany and Natalie last week on Wednesday, little did I know that the day after she would be announced as new Punch Brothers fiddle player. So yeah, that's the news this week, and it's just a big thing. My favourite band has changed, and that is exciting and sad at the same time, but mostly exciting. So yeah, that's this week's bit of Church Street news. And the next bit, I'm skipping the new releases because I don't really have much to report this week. There's more stuff coming up, and I will talk about that in time. But we have Scroll On Buddy. And there's one thing that I sort of spotted this week. Really interesting conversation that's been going on Facebook. Tristan Scroggins, who I interviewed, I think he was the fourth person I interviewed for this podcast, going back a couple of years now. And he put a post up saying this: I'm begging bluegrass songwriters to please stop writing bluegrass songs about bluegrass, i.e. referencing Bill Monroe, other prominent figures by name, instruments such as the banjo, etc., etc. Moreover, I'd implore the bluegrass listening audience to please raise your standards. A song that is only meant to remind you of better music is not a good song. And there have been a couple of hundred comments, and this discussion has gone on and on and on. And Tristan weighs in again with some clarification and some context and various bits and pieces. So I don't want to sort of summarise the entire conversation for you. Go and read it. I'll stick a link to it in the show notes. But I thought it was really interesting because it then made me go back and listen to the interview I'd done with Tristan, because we talked a lot about authenticity and we talked a lot about like how people engage with certain art forms and what it means to them and how that can be different depending on how connected to it you are or not, or and so I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Go back and listen to it. If you're newer to the podcast and you didn't hear the interview with Tristan and you're interested in that kind of stuff, go and have a listen. I listened to it again and found myself just sort of listening to it almost as a punter rather than being part of it. It's like I just listened to it with fresh ears, and it was really interesting. I'm fascinated as a non-American in the sort of culture around bluegrass music, how somebody like me who has nothing to do with the cultural references engages with stuff like that. And it's just, a really interesting conversation. I think Tristan is fascinating, all that stuff. So go and read the thing on Facebook, and then maybe go back and listen to the interview that I did with Tristan, because it's just interesting stuff. And that is always cool to listen to a good conversation about music. And that's it. It's a brief briefing this week. There's not much going on apart from those couple of bits that I've seen particularly. There's all sorts coming out, there's all sorts coming up, and I will keep you updated. These aren't always going to be chock full of news, but yeah, I still wanted to do one. I think it's important to do these every week. I like doing them. People like hearing them, and just keeps the conversation moving. That's it. In my ears this week, obviously, has been Punch Brothers. I've been going back and listening to the records. I've been listening to the fiddle playing particularly and enjoying it all over again. It's given me years of joy and will continue to. But that is it for this week's Bluegrass Briefing. Over and out until next time. Have a great week and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collings Guitars and Mandolins, making some of the finest guitars and mandolins in the world since the 1970s. Visit collingsguitars.com and find out why.